locomotion with me. So it's January 24th, 2026. It's Dr. Dina talking about slim bellies today. And this is a follow-up to a video I did last week and an article about belly fat. And in that video and article, we talked about how belly fat is actually a survival mechanism. You know, it's protective for you. And when your body feels like it's under stress, it's going to store fat. And we looked at some environmental factors that could trigger a stress response or increase cortisol. And anytime you have increased cortisol, again, you will store fat. So it could be a drop in estrogen, it could be too much coffee, it could be your mental state, your sleep, not getting enough sleep, not having enough minerals, not getting enough sunlight. We talked about all those factors in how it will trigger this stress response in your body. Living in Canada. And again, how it will trick your body into storing fat. And belly fat is not just kind of a cosmetic aesthetic thing. It's an indicator of health and many health issues from diabetes, heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure. You know, it starts as a result of the belly fat is really a sign, let's say, of other dis-eases that can happen in your body. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about slim bellies and give you some signals, other signals to help you burn fat. But let's talk about last week. So the good news is I did lose about 1/8 of an inch in my standard tongue testing fat caliper way and with my measuring tape. So, you know, it's some change, right? It's a little bit of a change, 1/8 of an inch. The gelatin trick that I talked about last week really worked. This is, you know, a teaspoon. I gave you the recipe. I'll attach the other video in case you didn't see it, and also the other article, because today's video builds on that one, but it gives you a little recipe, the gelatin trick. And again, I'll attach that to this article. But I'm going to bump it up this week. And I'm going to look at increasing my strength training, which is why I showed you this. I'm actually, the resistance band is a good strength training. And also the grip strength. Now, this was a little trick that was told to me by a functional neurologist, and his name is Dr. Michael Hall. And I did a neurology certificate way back when I was a chiropractor. The Brain DC is a great course for any chiropractors that are listening, or anyone that wants to take that course in functional neurology. But because the hands have let's say, a larger proportion of surface area on your cortex, your motor cortex, and also the somatic sensory cortex in your brain, any work and strengthening that you do with your hands not only affects things like tremors, tendinitises, asymmetries in the upper limb, but it also helps balance your brain and your central nervous system in a very profound way. So I show you these grip strength exercises because for anybody who's suffering right now with any sort of neurological issues or complaints, this is a great way to strengthen. And also the resistance band. These are things you can do at home, right? You can buy these things on Amazon. And you can research, you know, if you have certain exercises. The rotator cuff exercises are ones that I'm working on because after age 55, the rotator cuff muscles get weaker, and it's the most common shoulder injury, right, in adults. So the rotator cuff exercise are easy if you have a band like this. But so the strength training, the next thing I'm going to be doing that I showed you, I've been taking this on and off for many years, MCT oil. So it comes from coconut oil, but if you just take straight coconut oil, you get about 21% of the MCT, medium chain triglycerides. But if you can buy it at the health food store or grocery store, non-genetically modified, organic, of course, then you can just put like a teaspoon, a tablespoonful in your shake, you know, in your protein shake, or, you know, add it to your food, put it in your hot drinks. But the MCT, what's so special about this, medium chain triglycerides, is that they can't be stored as fat. They're used as energy through your liver, but they can't be stored as fat. So it fills you up, it satisfies your appetite, and it helps you burn fat instead of storing it. Similar to the gelatin in the way, right? I talked last week about how it has an amino acid, glycine, that helps you, tricks your body into fat burning instead of fat storage with the gelatin. But the MCT oil is similar in that it is actually a fuel source that you can use that your body doesn't store as fat. So I'm going to be increasing that this week. You can also get, by the way, the gelatin from bone broth. And if you don't want to make up the bone broth yourself, I make it in my slow cooker. So I buy the grass-fed beef bones and then just add some water and carrots and onions and different things, celery, and cook it, right, for 48 hours. And then you can have your beef broth. Wait, I'm going to show you. I should have had this out of my fridge. I should have took this out of my fridge earlier, but this is the beef broth that I make, and this is a layer of fat on top. And I don't throw that out. I keep it because it helps seal the bone broth, and also then I can use that fat if I'm cooking, right? I use the fat. My dad was saying years ago in Newfoundland, they never threw out fat. They always kept fat. You know, if you cooked a dinner and you cooked a roast or something, you always kept the fat because you used it again. We didn't have synthetic fats back then like we do now. So the MCT and oils as fat. I'll talk a little bit about that as we go on, how eating fat makes you slim. It's eating the sugar that makes you fat. And yes, grass-fed. Thank you, Landon. Thank you for your comments and people that are here. Grass-fed, organic, medium roast coffee. Well, you know, the coffee is, I try not to drink coffee. I did break down this week and have a few coffees because I was really depressed one day and it elevates my mood. But coffee does curb your appetite, but it's high in mold. It's coffee beans are one of the most sprayed beans out there. It is high in polyphenols too, so there's a cost-benefit ratio. But coffee for many people actually aggravates, right, the nervous system. It spikes the cortisol. So it's kind of a catch-22. I try not to drink it because I think it's not really that great for my system. But occasionally, you know, when it's part of my bad day agenda, Landon. But yes, you could add it to coffee if you're having it. If you're drinking coffee, probably not a good thing to have it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. You know, if you can dilute it with some food, it would be better. And, you know, to make it weak, not to use, you know, dairy ingredients, maybe use coconut milk, which is what I did when I have coffee, use coconut milk in it instead of, you know, cow's milk. So the next thing that we're onto is polyphenols. Anyone know what polyphenols are? Thanks, Landon. Well, polyphenols are kind of like a little biochemical multitasker, and they come from plants. They come from berries, blackberries. They come from currants. They come from grape skins, grape seeds. So some say that's why the French women are so thin. It's because they drink red wine. That's not genetically modified, by the way. I'll talk about that in just a second. And they eat lots of fat, good fat, natural fats, butter, for example, right? Or the medium chain triglycerides. And also they're not genetically modifying their wheat, which I'll talk about in a second. But so polyphenols, and you can find more information about this. The resource I would give you is Dr. Gundry, and he has a book called The Plant Paradox. So years ago when I had my chiropractic clinic, we used to sell Dr. Gundry's products, protein shakes, the polyphenols. Now he has a new product with MCT oil and the polyphenols all in the one. But it's difficult. So many of the cardiologists and nutritionists, in fact, I don't know anybody that supports eating a lot of carbohydrates. Some people, like Dr. Mercola, for example, will say if you're not having any carbohydrates, it can also push your body into stress. And some carbohydrates can actually help you get a better night's sleep. So I'm not going to say avoid them totally, although carnivore diet works well for some people. But if you're eating carbohydrates, choose wisely. And these two cardiologists, Dr. Gundry, Stephen Gundry, MD, cardiologist, and Dr. William Davis, cardiologist, MD, they won't do heart surgery on a patient until they follow their diets. And basically it's, higher protein, higher fat diets and low in carbohydrates. So those are two resources that I'd suggest. In Dr. Davis's book, he talks about the genetic modification of wheat and how some species have gone from 14 chromosomes to 42 chromosomes. That's the difference in the genetic structure of wheat. So why do you think that why do they why do they genetically modify the foods, first off? Do you know why they genetically modify foods? And you will know in Canada, if they don't say non-GMO, see that little sticker right here, non-GMO? It's going to be backwards, but right there. If it doesn't say non-GMO, you can assume it's genetically modified. And why do they genetically modify foods? So it can withstand the spraying of poison. And that poison is glyphosate. It was initially patented as an antibiotic, against biotic life, but now they use it as a herbicide. So it's sold to farmers because it makes their life easier. They don't have to pull as many weeds. But what it does, it destroys our natural bacteria and the bacteria in the soil, something called the shikimate pathway. So it's really harmful for our bodies. And when we're eating the genetically modified food, remember last week I said when our body feels like we're under stress, if the food quality is poor, we will store fat. So not only are you eating chemicals that your body wants to sequester and protect you in fat, but also it's perceived that the food quality is not there because the food has been genetically modified. And you know that, right? Like if it's not an organic orange or a banana, you can't even smell. If you had a blindfold on, sometimes you can't even taste or smell what the food is, right? Because when it's genetically modified, it's kind of like frankenfood or plastic food. So the genetic modification is a topic that I didn't touch on last day, but I do feel that it's important. And I'm trying to get more morning sunlight. Where I am right now is different than, it's harder to find that morning sunlight, but it's really important. Not only for appetite and helping you metabolize carbohydrates, because blue light from screens, from LED lights in your home, from your computer, it creates a problem in carbohydrate metabolism, and it is stressful, let's say, on your system. So the way that you can mitigate that is making sure that you get morning sun. Here in Canada even, like I wrap up in a blanket and go outside sometimes and just sort of stare into the sun. And not only does it help with carbohydrate metabolism, it helps reprogram your brain, right? Balances your brain, because too much of anything, one thing, right, is not good. It throws off the balance. And the sunlight has the red light. Also, red light therapy is something that I recommend. So let me just summarize. The strength training, make sure I got everything on my checklist. The strength training, the MCT, medium chain triglycerides, the polyphenols, eating more protein is what I'm gonna focus on this week, sort of bumping that up a little bit. And we talked about the polyphenols and what they do. Again, like I said, multitaskers, they help manage inflammation, oxidize stress. They signal this gut-brain axis. So they're almost like food for our microbiome, which again is 80% of our immune system is in our gut. So it all comes kind of full circle. You might be thinking, and the statin drugs, I should touch on that too. Statin drugs are for cholesterol. So this is like the biggest scam out there. I had a book, I was looking for it before I did this video, but I couldn't find it. But it's about how statins, I'm gonna have to post the link. Statins cause dementia, I think was the name of it, or statins don't lower cholesterol, they cause dementia or something like that. Because if you think, right, what we're talking about here, the fat is actually good for your body. The nerve sheath, the coating around the nerve sheath, it's like a coating around an electrical wire, right? It helps transmit and protect the nerves. It's made of fat. So if you're decreasing your fat, your good fats in your diet, like medium chain triglycerides, coconut oil, avocado oil, fish oils, extra virgin olive oils, organic, of course, of all those. If you're diminishing or you don't have enough fat in your diet, those nerves aren't getting protected. And it also increases inflammation in your body. So the statin drugs are a big moneymaker right now for causing dementia and a neurological disease. So they have marketed to you that fat causes heart disease, which is incorrect. That's a 1960s hypothesis that's been proven incorrect. And that what gums up the arteries is actually sugar, carbohydrates. So it's, again, another lie. Just like vaccines are somehow our healthcare, that's a lie too, 100-year-old paradigm. The whole idea of statin drugs actually preventing heart disease is a misnomer. And if you want resources on that, I would direct you, because I'm not a cardiologist, but these guys are. So let them tell you how important fat is. And it's part of a healthy diet. So again, the statin drugs decrease fat in your body, and your brain is 25% fat. All your nerves are covered in fat. Fat, the fatty sheath is around every cell, the phospholipid layer. I mean, fat is essential for life, basically. So don't let them sell you on the statin drugs and give you dementia. You know, you pay for your own demise. This seems to be a common theme in our environment right now, is tricking us and getting us to pay for our own demise, whether it's in shots, you know, or taxes paying for shots or medication. And that maybe brings me to my final point. So if you have any questions or comments, you feel free to put them in and I'll check before I sign out. But you might think, why is she doing a video on belly fat when the global economy is under stress and we're seeing, you know, global systems collapse? Why am I doing this? Because if we can make a change, if we can give people the courage and the confidence to make one little change in themselves, we also give them the courage and the confidence to make bigger changes in themselves, in their families, in their community, and in the world. Because what I see right now is many people giving up their power and their authority to a consciousness less than their own. And then they get angry because they've given up their authority. So it's kind of a catch-22. You're in stress if you're not doing it, or you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? You're creating stress on either side of the equation for yourself. So just like I said last day, right? If you're not happy with your body, you can cover it up. You know, you can sit in pain and discomfort. You can cover it up with a t-shirt. You can cover up your emotional pain with drugs. You can create addictions because you're not wanting to deal with your pain. Or you can face it. You can face your shadow head on, right? What is it that's bothering me right now? And then not only envision how you can change it, but you have to put the action steps in place, right? I can't expect the belly fat to kind of slip off unless I'm willing to do the work myself, right? So I had a post. So again, yeah, there's a post that I posted about public health yesterday, I think. And thank you for your comments, and thank you for sharing for those that did. You know, this is a teamwork approach, and I'm just in a position right now where I can talk about that and not lose my license, because they already suspended my license. And, you know, I feel like I'm in a position that I can share. So thank you for helping me with that. And also thank you for the people that have shared information with me. So somebody shared me that public health notice that you'll see. And then I had a few people contact me in the inbox saying, yes, this is true. They're even bringing puppies to vaccinations so that the kids are excited about, getting shot up with these toxic chemicals, and how they're tricking, these young adults into trying to circumvent even their parents' request and sending them directly to a health app, which is, again, a digital ID. So there's a lot happening in the world, and we need to take responsibility for ourselves. We can't sit back and expect some prime minister or pope or priest or some indigenous group to do it for us, right? We have to take responsibility for ourselves. And that means keeping our own bodies healthy so we're not dependent on that medical system that's government run. That means keeping our families educated, whether that's home education or educating them like I'm doing now with my mom. Thank you, Mom, for being here. Educating them in a larger paradigm. It is taking responsibility for our friends, developing communities and networks where we can support each other outside of that globalist system. So this video might seem at the surface, to be about belly fat, but there's a lot deeper intention in helping empower others, I think, to greater levels of love and wisdom. And somebody said to me last night, oh my gosh, you got so much energy. You put so much, positive energy in there. Well, I have my days too when I'm not feeling well, or when I'm feeling depressed, or, when I'm, we all have those days. I don't necessarily do a video on those days. I'm not wanting to plug into the matrix, right? Any more dense energy, because that energy, that fear and dense energy feeds, right, the system. It feeds the system. They thrive. They actually harness our loosh. They harness our energy, our negative energy. But when you're resonating and when you can increase your vibration, your individual vibration, nothing can touch you. Unless, of course, you've got AirPods in that creates a microwave around your head, or you're holding a cell phone next to your body. Then, your own mechanism, your own electromagnetic vibration doesn't protect you as well if you're holding something like that near your body. So making a shift that way. But so the idea, I guess, is to keep yourself healthy. And part of that is increasing your vibration. I did write a book, 8 Steps to Awakening Your Highest Potential, but I've been kind of disappointed that it's not ready yet. I feel like there's some external manipulation in some way. I'm going to call it divine intervention, even though I don't know if I believe that fully right now. But anyway, I don't know when the book's going to be finished. I've given another deadline to my publisher for the end of January, but who knows? So these videos are part of my service. This is part of what I can offer you from where I've came from, my background in health, and also my experience through dealing with government structures. So I hope that you can find some use in this and in the article that I wrote, because it really feels like my best loving service to you right in this moment. So thank you all for being here. I'd invite you to go out there and reach for the stars. Envision and achieve your personal best. And most of all, enjoy the journey. This is Dr. Dina signing out.